Kelsey Mitchell, like I said, 52-ish%, 30 points, 6 for 9 from the three-point line, 4 assists for Kelsey Mitchell. Caitlin Clark, 37 points, 10 assists, 5 turnovers. About those 5 turnovers, she had 5 turnovers at halftime. She played the whole entire second half, not turning the ball over at all. 8 for 12 from the three-point line. Folks, when Kelsey Mitchell and Caitlin Clark are combining 14 for 21 from the...
Here it comes, the stat line that shouldn't just impress Indiana, it should scare them. 37 points, 10 assists, 8 threes, and 0 turnovers in the second half. But numbers alone don't tell the real story. What should worry every team on Indiana's schedule is why this offense suddenly looks impossible to stop. And it all traces back to one player, Caitlin Clark.
Bank that ass all up and down that basketball court. The Indiana Fever end the road trip with a W, beating the Chicago Sky 113-90. A solid 23-point victory. Fairly close game in the first half. Then Kelsey Mitchell gets going. Caitlin Clark carrying the team in the first half. Kelsey Mitchell gets going in the second half. And these two just trade.
A 113-90 final makes this look like a blowout from the jump, but it wasn't. Chicago hung around deep into the first half. Then something shifted, and the whole floor changed shape. Clark had already put in the early work. Then Kelsey Mitchell got hot. And just like that, Chicago wasn't facing one problem. They were facing 2 guards who could make you pay for the smallest slip-up behind the arc. And here's why that matters so much. This wasn't Clark hoisting 35 shots while her teammates stood and watched. This was Clark applying the pressure, Mitchell cashing in on it, and the rest of the Fever feeding off defenders stuck with no good options. Help off Mitchell too much, and Clark makes you pay. Stick to the shooters, and Clark attacks herself. Lean toward Mitchell once she's rolling, and Clark punishes you right back. So now the real question hangs over Indiana. Was this just one hot shooting night? Or did we just see the blueprint the Fever need to lean on when the games start mattering most? And there's one more piece worth digging into. What this game revealed about the rotation and about life without Aliyah Boston.
Going in. It's going in. Caitlin Clark now has more 30-point, 10-assist games in her career, with 5, than the rest of the WNBA has combined in league history. Let that sink in. I'm going to have a sip of coffee while that sinks in. Yeah. Yeah. By herself, she's got more 30-point, 10-assist games by herself than the entire league combined.
Let's sit with that stat for a second because it's almost hard to believe. 5 career games with 30 points and 10 assists. And according to the broadcast, that's more than the rest of WNBA history put together. Let that sink in. Now break down why the combo matters more than either number alone. 37 points, on its own, just means she can score. 10 assists, on its own, just means she can pass. But put them together and defenses have a real problem. Because you can't stop her the usual way, which is forcing her to give the ball up. That's the trap. Normally, getting the ball out of a star's hands is a win for the defense. Against Clark, it's the opposite. The second the ball leaves her hands, that's when the real damage starts. She spots the roller. She spots the shooter standing alone on the weak side. She fires the pass before your defense even gets set. And if you crowd those passing lanes to stop it, she'll just pull up and drain one from way behind the line herself. Now stack Kelsey Mitchell on top of that. 23 straight games with 20-plus points, according to the source. That's not a one-woman show anymore. That's 2 problems at once. And you cannot afford to lose focus on Mitchell just because every eye in the building is on Clark.
Points in the second quarter, and then the eruption starts at halftime. 33 points in the third, 30 points in the fourth. Kelsey Mitchell, if memory serves me correctly, between 14 and 17 points in the third quarter. Kelsey Mitchell had 7 points at halftime. Then before you know it, I look at her box score in the third quarter.
This is the stretch where the game just fell apart for Chicago. Indiana dropped 33 in the third and 30 in the fourth. And look at where it started. Mitchell had just 7 points at halftime. Then, almost out of nowhere, everything changed. Blink, and she's suddenly at 21. Think about what that does to a defense. You spend the whole first half locked in on stopping Clark. You survive it. You think you're through the storm. And then the second scorer explodes from a completely different direction, and your whole game plan is dead. That's why this partnership matters more than any single stat line. Clark's impact doesn't even show up in a box score. Just guarding her high on the floor opens space behind her. Send a double team, and now you're playing 4-on-5 everywhere else. Rush a closeout, and you've handed her a driving lane. And once Mitchell starts feeling it, defenders can't afford to cheat toward Clark anymore. Every decision suddenly costs more. You could feel Chicago cracking under that pressure. One possession, all eyes on Clark. Next possession, all eyes on Mitchell. Then someone's got to deal with a player cutting hard to the rim. There was no easy possession, no moment where the defense could lock onto one threat and just breathe. And that's the real lesson here for Indiana. It's not give Clark more shots. It's about the order of operations. Make the defense react to Clark first. Let Mitchell punish whatever opens up next. Then let the rest of the roster clean up the mess those two leave behind. That's a system, and systems are what keep winning after the hot shooting nights are long gone.
5 turnovers. She had 5 turnovers at halftime. She played the whole entire second half, not turning the ball over at all. 8 for 12 from the three-point line. Folks, when Kelsey Mitchell and Caitlin Clark are combining 14 for 21 from the three-point line, you know what they would say back in the day, right? Shout out to everybody that played Halo and Call of Duty competitive. GG, no re. That means good game, no rematch. It's over. If these two are shooting 14 for 21 combined from the three-point line.
Here's the sequence that might tell you more about this win than any highlight reel could. At halftime, Clark already had 5 turnovers. Then something clicked. She played the entire second half without giving the ball away a single time. And in that same stretch, she and Kelsey Mitchell were lighting Chicago up from deep, combining to hit 14 of 21 three-point attempts. Now, the shooting numbers will grab the headlines. Sure, 14 triples between 2 guards can wreck almost any defense. But that 0 turnover second half, that's the detail that actually explains what shifted. Clark didn't play safer to clean things up. She stayed just as aggressive. She just started making smarter reads. And that gap matters more than people realize. Coaches can live with mistakes when a player is pushing for big plays. What they can't live with is careless giveaways once the defense has already shown its hand. Once Clark tightened that up, Chicago lost one of its easiest tools for slowing Indiana down. A turnover kills a possession without making the defense work for it. And worse, it can turn into points the other way. Take those mistakes away, and suddenly Chicago has to survive Clark and Mitchell over and over in the half court, with nowhere to hide. Picture being a defender out there. You finally force Clark off her first option, but she doesn't cough it up. She finds the next read. You finally contest a 3. Mitchell gets the next look instead. You finally stick to Mitchell. Clark creates space and gets hers. That's not one lucky stretch. That's pressure that keeps piling up. The three-point shooting won't repeat every night. Nobody hits at that rate consistently. But the decision-making, that's something Indiana can actually build on, especially once the games get tighter in the playoffs, when defenses scout harder and every turnover gets magnified. Now bring Mikayla Timpson into this picture, because she's the piece that makes this offense more than just 2 scorers going off. Timpson was running the floor all night, finishing Clark's passes, defending physically, crashing the boards, and even blocking Camila Cardoso at one point. This is a player who understands exactly how to play alongside a guard like Clark, and defensively, she's been a real asset too. Whatever you think about Monique Billings' role going forward, one thing looks obvious. Timpson is playing like a starting caliber forward, and Indiana can't afford to let her walk. Here's why that fit matters so much. Clark rewards players who move before the defense settles. That means rim runners matter. Screeners matter. Big players who don't need 5 dribbles to make a decision matter. If a forward can sprint into open space, catch the ball in stride, and finish, Clark can generate points before the defense even gets into its preferred coverage. That's why judging chemistry purely by scoring averages can be misleading. A player might only score 12 points, but the timing of those buckets can completely reshape how the defense behaves. If Timpson sprints hard enough to pull the opposing center back, that opens more room for Clark. If she dives hard off a screen, the weak side defender has to react, and that frees up a shooter somewhere else. One movement sets up the next advantage. That's the kind of fit Indiana has to think about going forward. Not just who's the best individual talent, but which combinations make the whole group more dangerous. And that leads to the bigger conversation. By halftime, Clark already had 18 points, 3 made threes, and 6 assists. Then she and Mitchell turned the third and fourth quarters into a complete blowout. 33 points in the third, 30 in the fourth. This looked a lot like Indiana's earlier winning stretch, when Clark and Mitchell would simply take over a game together. And that raises the real question facing Stephanie White. Does the offense need to be built more deliberately around these two? That doesn't mean everyone else stands around watching. It means establishing a clear order of operations. Clark isn't a traditional point guard whose only job is spreading the ball around evenly. Her ability to distort a defense is itself a weapon. If you use her like just another perimeter piece for long stretches, you're technically running an offense, but you're giving up the exact thing opponents fear most. Watch how defenses behave when Clark has the ball. The pickup point rises, help defenders lean in, screen coverage gets more aggressive, communication breaks down. Players who aren't even touching the ball suddenly get easier cuts because 2 defenders are worried about Clark's next move. That's where Mitchell becomes the perfect release valve. She doesn't need a long setup. She can attack a closeout, pull up off the dribble, or punish a defender who arrives a beat late. The goal isn't turning every possession into Clark dribbling for 20 seconds while Mitchell waits in the corner. That becomes predictable fast. The better version: let Clark force the first crack in the defense, make Chicago rotate, then let Mitchell attack a defense that's already scrambling instead of one that's perfectly set. That difference is everything. Now, about Aliyah Boston being out. A lot of people predicted Clark would go off because of it, and she did put up 37 and 10. But that's too simple a conclusion. Boston brings interior scoring, rebounding, screening, and size Indiana genuinely needs. The real question isn't whether Indiana is better without her. It's what changed structurally while she was sidelined. Did Clark control more early possessions? Did the spacing shift? Did the front court run harder instead of setting up in the post? Those are coaching questions, not reasons to bench Boston. Great teams figure out hierarchy without disrespecting anyone. That's exactly how the league's best offenses turn talent into results. Stephanie White's challenge isn't picking Clark over Boston or Mitchell. It's building a system where each of their strengths shows up in the right order. Clark's pressure opening things for Boston, Boston's screens freeing Clark, and Mitchell cashing in when the defense finally collapses. There was also the Deasia Carrington storyline going into this one. Plenty of build-up, plenty of noise beforehand. But once the ball was in the air, none of that mattered. Carrington finished with just 7 points while Clark dropped 37 and Mitchell added 30. The scoreboard did the talking. That's usually how it goes. Pre-game drama gets the attention, but the game itself gets decided by spacing, screens, and who actually makes their shots. Then there's the highlight everybody's still talking about. 8 made threes for Clark, a new career high. And it wasn't just about range. It was about the space she created with every single one. Go under the screen, and she pulls up from 3. Chase over the top, and she drives right past you. Trap her, and the ball comes out early into a mismatch. Switch onto her, and now a slower defender is stuck 25 feet from the basket with nowhere to hide. That's the real value of shooting like hers. It stretches every decision the defense has to make. Beyond the 2 stars, the supporting cast held its own too. Solid scoring off the bench, extra boards, and key minutes at center while Boston was out. That balance matters, because 2 stars alone can't carry an offense if everyone else goes passive. The right approach isn't overloading Clark and Mitchell with every touch. It's letting them create the cracks so the rest of the roster can walk through clean. So here's where this all lands. This one wasn't really about one insane shooting night. It's about what Indiana looks like at its very best. Clark creating the first problem, Mitchell creating the second, and everyone else cashing in on whatever the defense gives up trying to stop them. The real test comes next. Can Stephanie White build that rhythm on purpose, night after night, against defenses that actually scout for it? So tell us, if you were running this offense, what's the move? Build it fully around Clark and Mitchell, or keep things balanced and hope everyone eats? Drop your take in the comments. Hit like if you enjoyed breaking this game down, and subscribe so you don't miss the next one, because Indiana's biggest tests are still coming.